Hey guys, this is Healthy Life Designing. Today our guest is Mary Angela Miller. She is the food safety dietitian, and we're talking about COVID food safety today, steps to keep your food safe, what restaurants are doing. We're going to be talking about overt sanitation and takeout foods, ghost kitchens, and then we're going to get into just a little bit about how to keep your food safe at home with the wonderful Mary Angela Miller. When we come back, please stick around and we'll have more when we come back.
Hi, I'm Amanda Wattenberg, Regional Director at Ohio Guidestone. Do you or does someone you know have a substance abuse disorder? Have you been thinking about getting help but don't know where to start? It takes a lot of courage to ask for help, but it's the most important step you can take. If you think you know everything that's available in Fairfield County, think again. Like other chronic diseases, addiction can be managed successfully. Treatment enables people to counteract addiction's powerful, disruptive effects on the brain's behavior and regain control of their lives. Even if it takes multiple attempts, treatment does work and people do recover from addiction every day. So keep trying because your life matters. You matter, and we're here to help. Call 211 and ask for the treatment resources available right here in Fairfield County.
This message is brought to you by the Fairfield County Adam H. Board.
Hey guys, we are back. This is Healthy Life Designing. Mary Angela Miller is now joining us. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Darian. I can't believe it's been a year.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the last time we did this, it was right in the beginning. Everything was exploding. COVID, everybody was getting sick. We didn't know what was going on. But I mean, when we talked before, it was just the beginning. So what has changed from that time to now?
I would say that almost everything has changed, right?
Right.
We didn't know what we didn't know. So prior to last March, right, we were just understanding the huge impact this was going to have on our lives. And from my perspective, right, on our food, okay, and particularly on our food safety. So I think back then, pre-COVID, and what the CDC was focused on, and pre-COVID, one of their number one preventable health problems that they said we could do something about in the United States was food safety, right? Because 3,000 people die, hundreds of thousands of people can get infected each year, but that's dwarfed, right, by what has happened with COVID. So it's kind of taken a back seat, but people worried about it because food safety is related to viruses. You can get it from a virus, right? And COVID is a virus. So there we go.
Right.
And we were off and running.
So when it all first started, let me see my notes here, what we have. So what have we learned from that point to now with the food board illnesses?
Well, the biggest thing that I've noticed is at the beginning, we were preoccupied with surfaces. We were preoccupied. We were just like OCD when it came to cross-contamination, all right? I don't know if you remember even, there was a surgeon who made a video, and on his video, and it went viral, he talked about how you could scrub using the surgical scrub before you went in to do surgery in your home with your groceries. And people were doing that at their homes. Now, granted, that was well-intentioned, but it probably didn't hurt anything. But what's turned out, what we've learned since then, is that surfaces are not the issue that we thought they were, right? You're much more likely, washing hands is still important, and clean is still important, but you're much more likely for your hand to touch your face than your box of cereal to touch your face. So the clean part of food safety, because there are 4 steps: clean, separate, cook, and chill. The clean part, we really should focus on washing our hands, not trying to sanitize or sterilize our packaging. So I think that was one of the big learnings that has helped us focus on what's important rather than what we thought was important at the time.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, because I would see people go into stores and they would have gloves on top of their masks and they're touching all their food with their gloves. But I'm thinking in my mind, well, you're going to go home, but you've touched about 100 different thousand things with those gloves that you touched your fresh produce with, So I was always trying to figure out what's the purpose in that.
You were thinking ahead, right? You were being so logical, and I
Right.
think that's a good point. But those two things about cleaning and cross contamination were important. And then some of the studies showed, right, that 3 weeks later there still might be COVID on a surface. But what we learned was that it wasn't there in enough concentration to make us ill. So we can relax a little bit about sterilizing your packaging and your groceries. So that was one of the big things I think that has changed from now to then. I think the other one, though, was for me, and I'm sure for many of us, eating out is such a social part of our lives.
Yes,
and when we went
absolutely.
into physical distancing, bang, there was like the door slammed shut on going out to eat in restaurants. And of course, it devastated my colleagues in the restaurant industry, and it changed the way we eat at home. So that impacted food safety as well.
Right. And so talking about what's going on in the restaurants, they've had to make a lot of changes as well. And you and I talked the other day, and you mentioned the overt sanitation. And I'd never even heard of that before. So could you talk about that?
I'd be glad to talk about that because I work with the restaurant industry a lot. I do food safety training for restaurants, correct? And I've been on just tons of calls over the last year with both restaurant operators and healthcare food service operators, which is, as you know, where I spent my career as a healthcare food service director for Ohio State University Medical Center. So they really, really had to change their operation. And one of the things that we did was we call it the back of the house and front of the house. I don't know if you've heard those terms, but in restaurants, there's the back of the house that you don't see and the front of the house, which is the dining experience. Now, some restaurants, of course, have gone to open kitchens, so you can kind of see what's happening in the back of the house. But usually sanitation would have been a back of the house process. So it's not like restaurants weren't sanitizing. You just might not have been aware. But all of a sudden, we wanted people to know that we were doing everything in our power to keep you safe. So it wasn't enough to say all of our staff is washing their hands. We put hand washing and sanitizing stations when you walked in the door. We put signs up that said, here's what we're doing to keep you safe. We were making it very front of the house rather than a back of the house, or the term we used was overt sanitation, to assure you that we were doing all we could to keep our operations safe, to keep you, our customers, safe. So that was another big change. And we've actually had training throughout the country for restaurants on how to do that. So I think we've done a really good job at restaurants on the sanitation piece. Right.
What about the takeout foods?
Well, hasn't that changed everything? Takeout foods have skyrocketed. And there's a company, the Data Central, that does surveys on people from, ever since we surveyed people on their dining out patterns, right? And what do you think when people eat out, what's their number one concern? It's always taste. No matter what year we did it, no matter what the economy was, taste is always number one. Mm-hmm. And convenience and value were always like 2 and 3. All of a sudden, boom, sanitation went to the top, overt sanitation went into place, but then we had this physical distancing. So we couldn't even though we knew our restaurants were trying to keep sanitized, at first we couldn't even go in and eat there, right? So everybody went to takeout. And what did people worry about? They worried so much about what happened in the 20 minutes that the food got from the restaurant to their house. And we saw all these stories about presumably what their delivery person did. And I would just tell you what the restaurant industry did in response to that. They added a free training for delivery people. I actually took it. It was very good. It was online. Even if you were your own delivery person, you could go on and say, here are the 5 things I need to do to make sure that I'm delivering that food in a safe and sanitary manner. So that was another thing that changed in terms of getting the food from the restaurant to you. So
well, yeah,
I think that
because
was good as
now we
well.
have DoorDash. We have things like DoorDash, where
Right.
there's tons of different people that aren't not even in the food industry that are just delivering food out of their own
Mhm.
vehicles to make some extra cash.
Right. And you know what I worry about though? I worry a lot more as a food safety expert. What
Hmm.
happens to that food when it gets in your house? Not what happens for that 20 minutes that it
Right,
takes to get there.
right,
Because a lot of the times when we order a meal from a restaurant now, we might order the whole meal deal, right? We might order a package. We might order, I know back on Mother's Day, my daughter ordered like a spread for, both of the grandmothers in the family. So we had all this food and we ate it for the next few days. That's the food safety piece that I worry about. What do you do with the food once it gets into your house, especially the leftover food? Because that's much more of a risk for a foodborne illness than what happens in that 20 minutes or whatever amount of time it might take to get there.
right. Absolutely. And another thing is you had mentioned the other day was something super fun that I found incredibly interesting is ghost kitchens.
And you hadn't heard that term.
No, I've never heard that term anywhere.
Now, ghost kitchens are not scary. So let me reassure you there, because a lot of
Right.
people are scared about the coronavirus and their food. And it's not a foodborne
And
illness.
ghost.
Yeah. So, and we actually had started to see this happen with the advent of these delivery services before, in that the kitchens would be back of the house only. Some restaurants were designed only for takeout. And what happened with COVID was when restaurants had to close their dining services, many of them became virtual ghost kitchens, not because they wanted to, not because they were built to do that, because they didn't have any choice. But the concept has taken off. So a ghost kitchen is a kitchen that you never see. It's there, but they're not designed for you to dine in. They're only designed to produce food for sale, to be transported to your home for you to eat in your house. And I've had some opportunity to actually help some of these ghost kitchens get launched during the pandemic, help them get the food safety training they need. And I actually went to visit one of the ghost kitchen sites here in Columbus that had just a warehouse full of small kitchens where nobody is allowed in that's a customer. And the DoorDash and the Uber drivers just line up outside, come in, pick up their order and go. So ghost kitchens were accelerated by the pandemic, but I don't think they're going anywhere soon.
Well, how do you find these places?
Well, I think most of it you would just look to see who has takeout online, right? And some of them have their own proprietary apps. So that I know one of the kitchens that I helped was called JD Kitchens. And she just sent me a link and I pulled up her menu. And the only thing I can do is order it online by dip, and then it showed up at my door. So I would just ask your kitchen or where you might like to eat, where they, are they operating this way or not?
Wow. And that is so fun. Well, I think we're going to take a real quick break right here, but we're going to talk more with the food safety queen herself, Mary Angela Miller, when we come back. So please stick around. We'll be right back.
Fairfield Federal. When it comes to our customers and our community, we go above and beyond to help. Our people make the difference.
We were retiring from Tucson, Arizona, and we made a retirement trip out around Ohio, having decided that's where we wanted to be. And we came across this town called Lancaster, and we fell in love with the downtown area where the fountain is and the memorials and the flags and all this stuff. And we looked around and I said, there's our bank right there.
There's something to be said about a community bank in your hometown.
Right. If you live in the community, you should do business in the community as much as possible. So it makes sense to bank with the community bank where you live.
Fairfield Federal is the bank to be at. If you live in this town, or any town actually, you want to bank at a local home bank. And the employees are happy here, they're conversant, customer service is through the roof. There's nothing more you could ask for.
Personal or business banking, whatever you need, we take it seriously because we know you do. Stop by today at any of our 3 locations and see why the difference is clear. Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan specializes in banking that revolves around you.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome to the Dream Machine. Like to be part of the Dream Machine, keep me busy, and it's also important that we do it together as a group, and we plow and plant, and we have lots of produce. We have tomatoes like one here, and gourds, cucumbers, squash, strawberries, beets, microgreens. We also have flower arrangement, and we also sell bags, those tote bags, out of animal food bags, and we sell them out in the market, farmers market.
It's a special place that keeps people healthy by eating a couple fruits and vegetables. I always show people, first time they pick raspberries and green beans, I show them how to do it like they do it wrong. Picking raspberries and green beans is simple, easy for me. When entering some things in the field like pumpkins, the gourds were growing, and everyone likes them. Tasty.
Hey guys, we're back. Healthy Life Designing. We've been talking with the magnificent Mary Miller about food safety, and we're going to kind of get into more of how you can protect your food and when you're doing it at home and cookouts.
And hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be getting into cookout season soon, Darian. I hope so.
Yes, me
but
too.
I mentioned before about how I was helping restaurants, right?
Yes.
During the pandemic. But really, many more people needed help at home. There are people that never used their kitchen, or never, certainly to the degree that they use their kitchen these days.
Right.
Once
Yes.
they couldn't eat out, right? And one of the things that I've said is we've all acquired new cooking skills during the pandemic, but the number one cooking skill acquired by millennials is how to reheat food in a microwave, because many of them, that's virtually the only thing they use in the kitchen, right? Is to reheat the leftovers. And so they just assume, they don't all assume. Some people assume like microwaves are magic, right? Zap, the germs are gone. No, it's the heat that the microwave creates that kills the germs. And remember I said norovirus is a virus, and there are viruses that cause foodborne illness. But if you get your food up to about 150, similar viruses are killed. So even if you're afraid, if I haven't reassured you that you don't eat your way into coronavirus, if you cook your food up to about 150, 160, you'll probably kill the virus should by chance it's be there. But if you're microwaving a leftover, you need to put it up to 165. A little bit higher, because it's already been heated once, it's already sat out a while. It might have a few more germs in it that need to be zapped out by the heat. Okay. So 165 in a microwave. And how do you know? Don't guess. One thing I always say, don't trust your senses. Trust your thermometer. And I keep my thermometer right on my refrigerator. There's no excuses. It's right there. And I do. I reheat it in the microwave. I take it out. If it's not at 165 yet, and you want one that's big enough to read, for me, without my glasses, and it tells me right away. You want it at 165 for a minute, and it's best to heat it, stir it, heat it again, test it, and eat. So heat, stir, heat, check, eat. That's the cooking skill that a millennial needs if they're only using their microwave to be safe.
Yes. And what about leftover meat? How long is that normally good for after you cook it and it goes in the refrigerator?
Well, one of the things that I have is a magnet to put on your refrigerator that kind of gives you a guide for how long things are good. And it varies, right? It varies what kind of meat and how you cooked it and how long it might have sat out on the picnic table or the tailgate, if we ever get back to picnic tables and tailgates.
Yes.
But in general, rule of thumb, 4-day throwaway. 4-day throwaway. Now, if you're going to reheat that meat again, then other than maybe like have it cold in a salad, then you might be able to keep it a little longer because you're going to cook it again. So if any germs have grown in the refrigerator. But if it's a leftover that won't be reheated again, we call it ready to eat food. RTE food is the term we use in the industry. Then it's not going to be heated again. So I would be more cautious and not keep those foods as long.
Gotcha. Now, while we have some time left, you have been working on, I kind of want to switch direction here a little bit, just to mention this to the folks. You serve and you have served on a ton of different healthcare panels, for one.
Yes.
And you're very much involved, and you've done things internationally, but you came across getting more into the Mediterranean diet and getting on board with them. Can you talk about that?
Well, I could love to talk about that. So one, I just want to do a shout out to what I call my healthcare food service heroes, right? So restaurants were forced to shut down and they wanted to stay open. But think of the people running $1 million restaurants and hospitals, because they're serving patients and staff, right? They're serving the sickest patients. They can't shut down, right? We have to feed those patients and we have to feed those caregivers. And I always say they didn't think on their feet. Healthcare food service directors acted on their feet. And there are many healthcare food service heroes and heroines out there, but the food service industry is at the top of my list because they have just been amazing. Now, the other thing you mentioned, and I did a lot of food safety training on how COVID-19, I said, changed food and food safety in 20 and 21. But the Mediterranean diet roundtable is going to be so much fun. So we're starting a series called the Mediterranean Diet Kitchen, Cooking in the Kitchen, Cooking Up Conversations with Mary Angela. And we've got like the top Mediterranean diet cookbooks and chefs in the world. And I have their cookbooks and I'm going to test items in them because I'm not that good of a cook. And we're going to see how easy they are. And that is my goal, to kind of to make it accessible to everybody, because I really believe the Mediterranean diet is one that can work for almost more people than almost any other good diet out there. So that's what's next for me.
Right. And that's so fun. And congratulations.
It is so
and
fun.
I can't
I'm really
wait
excited. I'm going shopping this weekend.
Nice. If there's anything that we haven't talked about yet that you would like to mention, would you be able to go ahead and do that?
I would be glad to. I would just remember at home 4 steps to food safety. Cook, chill, clean, and separate. And make sure you have the things that you need to do that. Now, as you know, I have a kit that does all those things.
Yes,
and
you
sometimes
do.
People ask me, they say, isn't that like insulting if I give somebody a food safety kit? Doesn't that mean like I've seen their kitchen and I don't think it's what they need? Right. Well, I would just say, give it to somebody you love, right? Or give it as a chance when you might give a gift anyways, like a housewarming gift or a shower gift or whatever. Because once people have the tools, it's funny, they never go back to not using them. And I've learned that, like I've given people thermometers and they're going, what's this for? And then a week later, they're like, where's that thermometer? I need the new thermometer because the old one just isn't the right one anymore. Right. So just do what you can. And the steps that you take to prevent foodborne illness are very similar to the steps that you take to prevent coronavirus, except for the mask. You don't need a mask to prevent foodborne illness.
And if people would like to reach out to you for more information, where can they find that?
KeepSafeFood.com, or if you follow social media, you can look up the Food Safety Dietitian. That would be me, Mary Angela Miller.
All right. Well, you guys, that is all that we have time for. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and Mary as much as I do. Thank you so very much for being here and sharing all of your knowledge with us today.
Darian, thank you. As people say, nobody gets as excited about food safety as I do, but you make it fun.
Thank you. All right, guys, that's all that we have time for today. So we will see you soon. Thank you so much for watching.